Okay, this is for code JO. Couple questions. One on gematria. Can you explain it and some of your favorite examples? Gematria is basically in the Hebrew alphabet. There are 22 letters besides the doubles, the five doubles, and every letter is assigned a numerical equivalent. So the first letter Aleph would be equal to the number 1. Base, the second letter, is number 2. Gimel, 3, etc. Until you get to Yud, which is 10. After that, it goes in increments of 10. So the next letter Chaf would be 20. Lamed would be 30. Mem, 40. Until you get to Kuf, which is 100. And then from there it goes in hundreds. So Reish would be 200, Shin 300, and Taf, the last letter, 400. And from this, the sages have gotten many clues or hints about the making of the Torah and the making of the world. It says in Pirkei Avos, it says that gematrias are like the spices of life, like a spice. So someone said, just like a steak without a spice isn't really so appetizing. So without gematria adds flavor to your learning in a certain respect. My favorite example of gematria is the name Elokim, which we don't say, it's really with a hey, not a kuf, but that gematria equals Hateva. And this is one of the names of God. It's the name of God that's subservient to nature, and in fact, Hateva means the nature. And it's a way of expressing the belief that God has enclosed himself in nature, and when you look at nature, it's a concealment of godliness. And it's easy to look at nature and to say that everything is here is supposed to be here, and everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that there's no God, but really that's the makeup of God, that he enclosed himself in the rules of nature, and he by and large obeys the rules of nature, notwithstanding the miracles that are recorded in the Old Testament and afterwards by different people. Another one in Lubavitch used to say the 770, which is the address of the main synagogue, is equal to Beis Mashiach, the house of Messiah. What else? There's the one I like is the name of God, the four-letter name that we never pronounce is Yud Kei Vav Kei, and that gematria is 26. Someone said if you take two people, the gematria of the word one of Echad is 13. So Aleph, Ches, and 1, 8, and Dalet is 4, is 13. Two people that are one, and you put them together, one love and one love, you get 26. 26 is also the gematria of Ahava, of love. So two people with divine presence between them, they can experience something called love, the emotional experience called love. And there's many such examples. These are things I don't really spend too much time on, but I like looking at it just like the next person. Now, and he quotes a Chaim Kramer's book about the life of Rab Nassan of Breslov, who was the main student of Rab Nachman of Breslov, and he was the one who recorded basically all his teachings. So like this, the Rebbe Nachman went to explain that to come to true repentance, one has to have two kinds of expertise: to know how to stay close to God at times of spiritual elevation, baki beratzoi, and to be able to find Him at life's low points, baki b'shuv. So these two ideas, central to spiritual growth, are at the core of almost all the Torah discussions Reb Nosson himself subsequently composed, geared as they are to inspiring people to ever higher spiritual endeavor while encouraging those who have lost heart and become demoralized. The Rebbe connected the two kinds of expertise with the form of the letter Aleph. Okay, now it gets into an example. And basically, this is really, I actually spoke about this on the video about the moon, that this is actually one of the most fundamental things in a relationship to God, is you have to know that there's constant oscillation in your life, and there needs to be both these types of appreciations, that when you're in spiritual ecstasy and you're in a spiritual high and everything couldn't be better, you have to be what he calls baki beratzoi. So let me first explain the concept of ratzoi v'shuv. Ratzoi is a going out, is an expiration of the soul, and shuv is a coming back down into this world. And both things are necessary, and you experience both things at different times. It says in the story of Nadav and Avihu, they were two sons of Aaron who brought a foreign fire, it's called, in front of God, and they expired. The Rebbe, according to Chassidus, this expiration was not a simple thing, it wasn't a punishment, but it was because they had come too close. And the Rebbe explains actually that Ratzoi, they had this desire to cling to God with all their heart, with all their soul and all their might. But at the same time, they forgot Shuv. They forgot that the main point of Torah and mitzvahs is to come down to connect to God in this physical world. So because they forgot Shuv, they actually expired. They got what they'd wanted. They came so close to God that their souls were once again reunited with God. And this is something that was ultimately seen as undesirable, because the Rebbe always pointed out that our main task in this world is to work within the world and to affect people and to get the world in a way of to engender an environment of peace and an end of economic disparity for all of God's creatures, all of the earth's inhabitants. So Ratzu is going out and Shuv is coming back down. So Rab Nachman is saying here that we have to come close to God in terms of Ratzu. When we're going up, you have to remember that the up isn't just for yourself, isn't just for your own self-aggrandizement. It's called your own to build yourself up. It's rather to be close to God, and you're doing it for that purpose and that purpose alone. And also, when you have shuv, when you have a low point in life, I guess he compares it to, you have to remember that even in your low points, God is close to you, as it were, and you are close to God. And when you come back down, you're coming down. It's also an appreciation that God is there with you on the journey down. And this is something. This is the concept explained by the Baal Shem Tov when he said, "Shiviti Hashem lenegati tamid." Is a verse in Psalms that I place God before me always. So Shiviti could also mean the word Shiviti can also be the same root of I've equalized God before me. And the Baal Shem Tov taught that every single thing that happens to a person, so we should equalize God in this thing and see that this thing too is coming from God. And the big spiritual highs and the big physical lows in life, everything is coming from the same source. And in Halacha it's brought down that just like on the same name we bless God for the good things, so too on that name, God's name, we bless Him on the things that are opposite of good for in our own understanding. And the ultimate appreciation is when you realize that what you conceive as good and bad in your own life is just one little drop in the bucket, considering the fact that there's 6.3 billion people, and God is in charge of them all, and God has to make for them all their own realities. And the fact that this happened to you could be because something else had happened to another person. So let's say someone close to you passed away, God forbid. So you make the blessing, Baruch Danemes, blessed is the true judge, the judge of truth. But someone else, this person could have gone on and who knows, maybe committed some kind of act randomly or not so randomly, and you would have ruined another person's life, and it was simply his time to go. He'd fulfilled his mission in this world, and now it's time to go. So because you don't see the whole picture, because we're so limited in our understanding, we're so finite, and we're so caught down here in the corporeal world, because of this reason we still bless God in all things, and the ultimate realization is that all things come from God. And both in our highs, in our ratzu, and in our shuv, and in our lows, and are coming back down, we have to appreciate that everything comes from God. So it connects with the letter Aleph, which is, a line in the middle, and a line on top, and a line below, and also Moses and Yeshua. Anyway, you asked a question. I really don't know why this author Chaim Kramer makes a parallel between Yechezkel's vision of the throne and chariot, which you assume is dealing with Adam Kadmon, and the Rebbe Nachman refers it to the man who sits upon the chair. Is it because we can obtain yichud, oneness, with the Adam Kadmon and Hashem, for once we have our origins via the teacher-student relationship, which can bring us to true repentance? Or perhaps you can expand upon this, or simply the concept of Adam Kadmon and the origins of our souls, or our collective soul, and the Oitzer, treasury, or Guf, body, if you feel that's permitted, or if it touches on too many mystical concepts. I'm just not so well versed on these things. I know briefly Adam Kadmon is a principle in Kabbalah. Like you said, it's like he was like the first person, let's say, but he wasn't even a physical being. And he enclosed within him all the souls of all future beings. And even says about Adam Rishon, the first person, the first created being, that he at one point had within him all the souls of all the people that ever be in this world. And then when he ate from Pri Etzadas, when he did his sin, so it became mixed up good and bad souls. But I'm just not so versed in this type of Kabbalah. It's not really, unless it's really brought in Chassidus, I haven't really studied so much this type of thing. I'm sorry I can help you more. But his teaching in general, I guess, is founded on the appreciation that you can achieve a lot to a Rebbe student relationship. The Rebbe being seen as the higher spiritual entity, the student is a lower one. But because they both appreciate their roles, by the student connecting to the Rebbe, he can get, facets of his wisdom. He can get little glimpses of his holiness, of his understanding of the world, and through that break him down to his own level, and then he can understand the world differently. This is a main concept in Chassidus, like to explain, if Einstein were to explain, theory, relativity, whatever it was, to a first grader, he'd have to first start with basic math. So he encloses his wisdom and he makes analogies and analogies upon analogies until he can finally speak to the first grader in his language. And then slowly he'll build him up and he'll build up his understanding until hopefully at the end of his life he understands exactly what Albert Einstein wanted to say to him. So same thing with the Rebbe Nechasa. The Rebbe sees the world in a much different way, in a much different manner. He's more subliminally connected, and he's more transcendent in his being. So he tries to enclose his vision of the world and his understanding of the world in analogies for other people that are on a lower level than him to understand. So that's what I understand. I'm sorry I don't know more about the Kabbalah. Thank you so much, and God bless.